Hello. I'm making a video, and this is always the highlight of the day. After hours of crying and grief and crying and more suffering for the animals that are suffering, and pain with mental illness and OCD and this and that problem and worries, and talking about screwdrivers and the future and 48-hour crime report. Finally, I am here at 7:05 p.m. in my art dining room. Okay, so that's all I can provide for my artwork, is a dining room. Okay, but I'm glad I have this dining room. Okay, so I'm not allowed to move the camera around. You can walk by, there's no worry at all involved. I wanted to show my alien spaceship 6. It's almost finished. It looks great standing there on the corner of the table. But if I show that, then I will be showing Paul accidentally, and I can't do that. But I will make a video of that once it's completely finished. And when Paul is not in here, then I can show it when the sun shines and the colors are bright and all of that. So, and that too is just a mold of packaging material, just like this one, but in a different shape, also made with styrofoam, which had been cast into a mold, and it has a very specific shape to hold tools in place in a package and stuff like this. The same with this one, or maybe I can show it now. There it is. Okay, I have to turn this around again. I can't accidentally show Paul. So, but yeah, there it is. It's almost finished. And those were very easy to make because they are just styrofoam packaging materials. I didn't need to do anything with it. I didn't need to tape anything on it. Some of those pieces they had indentations and some damage and some holes and stuff. I taped that up with masking tape, so I have that here in the shelf. I have duct tape in there and masking tape, and I fix any of those holes or damage to the packaging material, and then I can paint right over it with acrylic indoor decorating paint. So Sandy, you can do that. It's very, very simple, really. You know, if you have some interesting packaging materials like this, you can do that, and you can paint it with indoor acrylic paint form, just like indoor decorating acrylic paint. It's much cheaper than artist paint. It's more liquid, but it's very efficient. It has a lot of color. It has a lot of pigment in it. We don't necessarily have to have artist paint that has thickener in it. It's nice to have it, but it's like way more expensive, and the paint after a while it thickens by itself. So if we put that into yogurt containers, for example, or Play-Doh containers, which I have done too. I have these little Play-Doh containers where I mix colors in it. I mix my own colors up. All you really need is you go to a hardware store, you buy like, I don't know, basically just a large cup size of yellow, one blue, and one red, and one white. So that's all you have to have, okay? You can mix basically all colors up with these three base colors with the white also. Really, it's 4 base colors. So white's not a color in that sense, but you know, you have the 3 base colors with the white, which is made from chalk and those kind of earth sedimentations that are white. And then you can mix all kinds of colors up. You can mix bright colors up just with the 3 base colors, and you can also mix those again into a separate jar, then using different doses of the white, and then just see what color comes out of it, and just experiment with it. You know, this is a lot of fun, experimenting with the different colors and see what happens when you mix them together, what color comes out. Orange and red, yellow and red creates orange. Blue and yellow creates green. Green and orange creates brown. And red and green also creates some kind of brown. And if you mix all of them together, you might come out with a very dark gray, maybe even black, but probably not all the way black, but some kind of anthracite, dark gray, something like this. And blue and red makes purple. So you can intermix all of these and then also add the white to it in order to create a pastel, which I have made. So even the blue has some white in it to make it more powdery. And then you can see these beige tones and the skin color type of tone. Those are all mixed also with white. They have white in it, and the color that he got me was some kind of peach type of pastel tone that was already quite pastel, and with some of these I mixed even some white into it to make it even brighter. Then you can mix red with white. You have mainly white, a little bit red, makes a wonderful pink. So many different types of tones that you can make with that, and it's fascinating and amazing. And just experiment with it and combine these different colors with each other on the painting. You know, paint something, paint a formation, and then what I do is, this is just my specific technique that I do. I know that Takashi Murakami uses that technique in much of his artwork as well, but I did not copy this from him. I found him much later, and I was very surprised that he is painting some things in a very similar way that I do. So yeah, I have these very strong contrasting colors, and each color has several layers of paint on it. Even the outlining and the pink outlining contours, all of that has several layers on it. So otherwise it would not be coming out this saturated. So several layers makes it really saturated and very rich and very amazing. You can paint any way you want to. You can paint cartoonish, you can paint more 3D, you can paint more rough, more belly type of emotional painting. You can mix colors together on the painting itself. I mean, it's completely up to you how you want to style and create your artwork. So this is just how I do it, and I hope it inspires some people. But everyone should paint the way they feel like it, and never go by what other people do or what maybe the fashion is with anyone or whatever. And it, we should all be outsider artists. So they're the so-called outsider artists that have started painting in insane asylums. They would start painting inside of their bedrooms on the wall, in hospitals and stuff like this, and people that were like long-term, lifetime patients. And then that art process actually freed them. It was such a therapy that they started to become more balanced and were able to reflect on their lives and put things into order and start to have normal conversations with people without being schizophrenic or something like this. So they have totally freed themselves through art. Okay, this is possible. And many of them are no longer in insane asylums. They still consider themselves to be outside artists. Many of them have become famous. So obviously now they have become insider artists. They are now acknowledged by the worldwide art scene and by art critics and so on. And their paintings are selling for a lot of money, and they're making some money for themselves, and they can move into larger homes and have their own studios and so on. So it's phenomenal what art does for people. It's absolutely amazing. It has even saved people's lives in a physical way, where people were sick. I heard of a case that's really something. That was during the that was a very dark era, like the 50s and 60s, where the United States tested nuclear bombs in the southern Pacific Ocean, at the equator, on some islands, and also in Japan. 2 terrible disasters that were conducted by the US military against Japan just to test nuclear bombs on innocent people. Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Okay, there were photographers that went there that took photos of that, of the aftermath of those catastrophes. And one famous photo came out of it of a little girl whose clothes had burned off her body from that catastrophe, and she was running down the street screaming in pain. And the whole world saw that, and things were not as censored so hermetically yet as they are today by the news, by the media, and so on. So that was then the flower power started in the 60s, and people, because of what they have seen, the atrocities that have been conducted by militaries and so on worldwide, particularly from the side of the US military, the people were absolutely shocked and appalled, and they started to go against it, and they started to create this peace movement and make art and help themselves psychologically and also physically. And there was one therapist that was helping people. I don't know whether that was whether that was an Oriental person or someone from the Western world, I don't know, but there was an amazing person in Japan who was doing an art project with kids and adults who had been victims, who had lost their homes and had suffered, and some of them had leukemia, some of them were physically very, very sick because of that disaster. It affected their entire life. And there was this amazing art therapist, and he would help these kids with leukemia and other horrible C-word illnesses. I don't even want to say the word. And he helped them psychologically, and he helped them make folding art, folding paper, so that they have a big, so I assume this is probably a Japanese artist and therapist who did this program, because that's also very native to Japan, to fold paper and make amazing ornaments with it. They make amazing stuff out of things, so they have always been very creative and very resourceful with those kind of things, and really the world leader in resourcefulness and making amazing art and making amazing products. So except for the dolphin hunt, there are bad people in every country, obviously, and the dolphin hunt in Japan is a stain on their country, obviously. So, and people, we should all talk about the plus and the minus. We talk about the good things and the bad things, and we need to look at the good things. We need to look at the bad things in order to bring awareness to that, in order to introspect, in order to do things better for the future. Okay, the dolphins in Taiji need to be rescued and brought back into the ocean. This is a fact. But that that amazing artist, therapist, he was helping these people, and I don't know if they already did the dolphin hunt and the whale hunt at that time. They started that later. So they started that, I think, after the 60s. I don't know why they started that. That's really bad. But anyway, that artist therapist, he was helping these kids with mental illness and with physical illnesses, and trying to make their lives better as best as he could, and involving them into these art projects where they would make folding art, and they would make these peace doves out of paper sheets, just folding a peace dove, a bird, which represents love and peace and freedom and healing. They would make that out of these paper sheets. And there was one girl, she was very, very much involved in this and enjoyed that process so much that she really lost touch with time, and she lost touch with thought, the thinking process, that Jiddu Krishnamurti is always talking about. When we sit there staring at the wall, when we think about the past, the so-called ruminating process, where we just chew through the past over and over and over again, and that happens, that's a natural process that happens in a person when they have been through a trauma, obviously. But obviously that thinking process is very, very painful. So it's a very painful, grinding experience to go through the trauma over and over and over again, and to have these traumatic thoughts and have brain terror, which I have. Okay, and even when I'm working on my artwork, some of the brain terror comes up, but it is instantly funneled back into the art process as I go. So it's actually a healing process in that moment, because we need to process what we have experienced in the past. We need to process this and resolve it. It needs to be funneled through that ego dissolution funnel. It needs to be churned through it by us, when we think about it, not try to, in this moment, to find a solution, which is the grinding. And that's also a state of resistance. I want to instantly help. How can we? This is also important to do that later. Find strategies of what can we learn about this? How can we avoid this in the future? But in the moment when we're going through this healing process, when we go through the ego dissolution funnel, we want to not be standing in resistance to this. We want to... I have brain terror coming up right now, for example. It's not easy. So we want to feel it and cry through, and not be in resistance in that moment, not find a solution right now in this moment when we're meditating. Feel it, let it flow, not let it necessarily go, because you can't let those things go. I hear people say, let go, let go, let go, let go. That's a misunderstanding. You cannot let go of these things. If you have been traumatized by whatever it was, okay, physically, mentally, psychologically, you can't just let go of that. That's an illusion. That's a delusion to think that you can do that. You can't. But you can let it flow. Okay, so let it flow. And that doesn't feel so good, obviously. I sit there in meditation, suddenly something terrible comes up. Because it wants to come up. It wants to be integrated in a way that it is being processed in a way where it no longer is pushing against us, pushing on the door, knocking on the door, wanting our attention, and we are pushing it away. So, but in a way where we sit in meditation, that stuff comes up and we don't run away from it. We look at it full force. We look at what is happening. Why is this thought coming up? Why is there brain terror coming up? What kind of brain terror actually happened to me that this thought is making it through into my conscious awareness? But we have to sit with it, and we have to breathe with it. And if the tears come out, then we have to cry it out. We have to let it flow the way it wants to. The whole thing, the body, the tears, the thoughts, without acting it out, without resisting it, without finding a solution, without letting anger out on anything. Okay? We shouldn't even let anger out on a pillow. Thich Nhat Hanh also talked about it. He said that's another act out. It causes even more reinforcement of this type of vent. So then the body wants to always go into this vent, which is the vent of venting on a pillow. So it becomes a funneled escape from that what is actually going on. So I learned this now over the last couple of years. For a long time I was still with primal therapy very much, to the most part, thinking that we need to throw ourselves against a padded wall. That could be that can happen too. But that we need to pay very close attention that this does not become some kind of welcomed escape from that what is there, So I hammer it out, but then it's still there, I just vented it in this moment, but the pain is still there. The only way we can really heal that pain is if we sit with it and cry it all out. So this therapist that did this folding paper artwork with those children, he was saving their lives even from illness. So there was this little girl that was reported. She was like 10 years old or something in Japan, and she had some very serious illness. I think it was leukemia, which is it's a I don't like to use the word it's a C word, where it's an autoimmune illness where her own white I believe the white blood cells are eating the red blood cells. It's an autoimmune dysfunction, and that's a real serious one. People die from this. I know a man who died from this. I'll get into this in a moment. That's also very, 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 that's a very interesting, and I don't even have words for it, what happened to this man. But this girl, by sitting there and folding this and not doing this ruminating and thinking and the brain terror, just really focusing on folding these peace dogs, So knowing that this is helping her, knowing that this is an energy that she is creating, and she took her power back over her life by creating this artwork. You take your power, it's empowering, to the point where she was able to heal her leukemia through making these artwork doves out of paper. And I believe she created thousands of those. Thousands and thousands and thousands. Every day she was doing this. And she healed her leukemia. So that's how powerful art is. Okay. And whatever you're making, it's the art process is the creation process. That's what Shri Krishnamurti is talking about. That's true creation. That's empowerment. That's you in the flow of creating something that does not come from your ego. It does not come from your personal gaining, getting, needing, wanting, or sexual or whatever. I'm not saying that art that contains sexual themes is not art, and that may be a very important process of getting things processed, like a trauma. For example, when I was a child, I painted very traumatic scenes of a little girl being bitten by a ghost, bitten into the belly where blood was coming out, bathroom scenes, a big, like what, Gaia, it's the German word, it's like a big prey bird, like a hawk or something, standing over two little children and a Great Dane, and that was us, the Great Dane, my grandfather's Great Dane, my brother and me. And we were standing there, really, under that huge, huge prey bird, and that prey bird was my grandfather. Okay. Many bathroom scenes of cut up heads and cut up limbs that I made before I entered into Annaliese's play therapy. That was from age 2 to 5 that I painted these or made these drawings. I still have some of those here at this house. Very, very scary. Scary paintings that I've made, thousands of those. Okay, and that's to process stuff also. Again, it's the art helping me to process these things. So painting something that could be, but that could have to do with something very traumatic that I experienced as a child, or something that had to do with sexuality, or something, usually, rape for little girls that is happening on an epidemic level worldwide. That's how broken the human species is, that there are so many pedophiles that are hurting little children like this and causing them trauma and suffering and sexual problems for the rest of their lives. Distrust, and little girls that will grow up, they are fully straight women, but they can't show themselves in a dress, or they can't show themselves in a swimsuit or whatever, or nude or whatever, because they carry that trauma from the past. Okay, so, or they become police officers and they dress like a combat soldier. Okay, so I could do that very easily as well. I already dress like a combat soldier most of the time because of that trauma. Okay, so when I was a little girl and I wore a dress, I felt extremely vulnerable, to the point where I felt ugly in the dress, which is very interesting. So yeah, that's how deep this goes, So if I wear a dress, I actually feel ugly. I have to dress up like a combat soldier in order to feel good about myself. And I'm not trying to be a man. I was accused of that. I'm a fully straight woman. I have a severe trauma from childhood, and that's what childhood trauma does. When we are raped at age 3 or 4. Okay. This is a fact. The world needs to know this. I'm talking to the rapists, the pedophile men, the psychopaths, the sociopaths. Your pleasure like this, your short-lived 10-minute pleasure that you do to a little child, Hunter Biden, for example. I've seen a video tape of Hunter Biden having like an 8-year-old girl sucking, okay? That video was on Twitter for a while. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked to see this. And then the world is like, not. People are like, hello, are you in denial or something about Hunter Biden? Are you in denial about Joe Biden? Are you in denial about these serious criminals? That's my question. But my question to Hunter Biden and all pedophiles that do some atrocity like this is a serious crime. That's not even a question, because they don't give a hoot about any of this. They don't care, okay? No, they don't care the slightest bit if I ask that question. Be careful with my artwork, with the jacket. So, yeah, they wouldn't care. They would laugh about this. But what I have to say to them is, your 10-minute pleasure with a child causes that person a lifetime of trauma and suffering and sexual problems and social dysfunctions and paranoia and depression for maybe 100 years suffering. That's what your 10-minute pleasure caused that person. Okay, I needed to say this. It's very important. But there are good people too in this world, and I have to always make sure that I watch these things that are good. And there are people that are very consciously putting good things on Twitter and on Facebook and on YouTube in order to give us kind people and vulnerable people and gentle people something positive to see, something that we can see, there are animals that are being rescued. There are animals who find a good home, who find a sanctuary where they can live their life, their full life, for the rest of their lives. There are people who help animals, who do therapy with animals and help the animals recover and heal their pain and their trauma from what they have been through in factory farms and so on. There are good people out there. There are good therapists that are helping trauma victims, like with Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and help them make artwork that heals them, that helps them heal and go through this and cry things out and empower themselves and heal their emotional pain and even heal their bodies from any kind of illness there is. So that's how powerful art is. Very powerful. And my artwork radiates out healing energy. It does. Okay, it's very, very nice. And I always love looking at my artwork. I really enjoy that, and I feel very empowered when I look at my artwork, and they bring me joy. So my artwork is the blue god. And all of these aliens in my art, that is the blue god. In alien form, and dog form, and human form, and many different forms, octopus form even. Many different shapes. And I paint flowers, and I paint hearts, and I paint infinity signs. Those are my symbols that I use. And I love it. It's very, very nice. I work with different colors, color combinations, and it's very lovely. It's very, very wonderful to do. So, but, go into your garage and just check out what you have, something that you might want to throw away, or cardboard boxes. You can tape them up with masking tape and just start painting them. And make an alien spaceship out of it, or any project, anything you want to create, any kind. Just let your emotions flow, let anything flow that comes through. Don't suppress anything, and funnel that into something good. You can paint something traumatic out onto the cardboard. You can give that trauma a heart so that the trauma can heal. So you can paint something traumatic, like maybe a child that was bitten by a ghost, as I painted, and then what is he doing? He's plucking something. Can you?
Where is he?
He's in the living room plucking something. So and then you can paint a heart next to that child. Or you can paint the blue god putting his blue hand over the head of that child. Something like this, some process like that funnels it into healing, into something positive, into something good. That's very, very important. So yeah, that's what we do. You can also use an old doll, or you can create an entire dollhouse, or you can create a whole room with stuff in it and teddy bears, and like Jonathan Mese has created. He created a prison with, he has these dummy dolls in it, those window dolls that he dressed up, and he put paint on them and hung teddy bears around them, and wobble monsters and toys. And so yeah, just let your imagination flow free and let this flow the way it wants to flow. Take your power back, heal your body, heal your mind, and create this flow of energy and this positive energy, this healing energy in your artwork. Okay, so much love and hug.